as promised, retired my granddad's benders, put them on the wall. This is my sort of office game room. These are all plumbing pictures that I've got off charity shops and various things, and then just had them framed. So I've got the benders there, guides. That's Booth and Sons Builders. That's from the old yard from when my granddad was alive. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I've also done my swaging tools because they were my granddad's as well, so I've retired those as well. Yeah, let me know what you think. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to the latest Life of a Jobbing Plumber. It's been a strange week this week, really busy, lots of jobs on. It was my birthday. I tried to have the morning off. As usual, when you have any time off when you're a plumber, you think you'll have some time off and then your day just gets busy. So I ended up working late on my birthday, but it's my second birthday in lockdown, so I couldn't do anything anyway. Had a bit of stress going on with Gas Safe. They've really helped me out actually, but I don't know if this has affected you, but my gas qualifications run out at the end of this month in March, and I could not get on a course. I've been trying since November, December to try and get on a course local to me. My local college that I'd like to do it at is shut, and they kept saying apply next week and we'll let you know if the courses are going to be running. Couldn't get on one till May. So obviously running out end of March, it would have left me April without being gas safe. So I had to ring up a couple of times. They said they couldn't do anything. And then I finally got through to a guy who was really helpful. Sent him the evidence that I'd tried to get on some courses. And he said that was acceptable. Showed him the proof that I'd booked onto this course that's in May. So they've extended me now till June. So my qualifications now extended till June. And then what I'll try and do is when I go on my ACS and do all my training and whatever I do for that, I'll see if they'll let me film some of it for YouTube so you guys can get an idea of what you have to do when you do a resit. So there's that. My new kit bag, the PB soldering bag, that released yesterday. I was there all day boxing them up and shipping them out to people. That's gone down really well. I'll stick a little video at the end of this. You might have seen it if you follow me on Instagram, but I'll put a little video for you YouTube guys of the new soldering bag. I'm really pleased with it. There'll be a proper video on how the design process, all the features of that bag, middle of next week sometime. So there's that. Yeah, this week's video, gas stuff, plumbing stuff, and then Monday morning, so tomorrow, 2 days, I'm working with Marcus. We're going to be fitting a system boiler and fitting some valence sensor controls, so I'll make sure I film that. But yeah, enjoy the video. This is a job I did this week, call out to a gas fire not working, and I don't find people these days don't really use gas fires, but this customer does, and it suddenly stopped working. They said that someone was doing work in the street, and since then it's stopped working, so they think it's linked to that. So you can see here, when I light it, the pilot light is very weak. That's not strong enough to touch the thermocouple to keep the gas valve in. So we've got an issue with what I suspect to be a blocked injector on that pilot. I've also talked the customer into a service while I'm doing the repair because looking at the condition of it, it's not been touched for a long time, so it's well overdue. Now, I could work on this pilot with the fire in situ, but I find it's a lot easier to work on gas fires, this type of fire, by taking the bed out. And it's only a couple of screws, left and right bottom corners, a couple of screws, isolate the gas, and you can take the whole thing out. Then you can turn it upside down, you can see all the pipe work, the gas valve, the pilot assembly, and it's a lot easier. You might have noticed this video's on mute, and that's because this dog did not stop yapping the whole time I was there. For the first 20 minutes, she wouldn't come near me, just sneaking up behind me while I was working. Eventually, we became best friends. So, gas is disconnected, isolated at the restrictor elbow, and then you can take the firebed out. You can see how dirty, cobwebs, all kinds of crap going on behind. So now I've got it all separated. I can clean the back box out and I can clean the firebed. Now I can easily, with this upside down, remove the injector, the pilot tube, check everything for blockages. You can see on the palm of my hand there the debris that's came out of that injector. So that was well blocked. You could hardly get any gas through it. Obviously you saw the pilot light was really weak, so it needs cleaning out. So I use this air spray. It was hard to do this, film this with one hand, but basically blast that out, get all the debris out of it to hopefully clear that. This tiny little hole at the end of it. And then if you hold up to light, that's the way I test them, just to see. Now I can see through it clearly. Nice big hole there. So put it all back together. Gas is back on. So moment of truth, the customer's watched me the whole time I've been doing this. Light it, and there we go. 1,000 times better, that pilot. Nice and beefy flame. It's touching the top of the thermocouple there, so that's kept the gas valve in. So job's a success. Now, what I will do on any job when I've disturbed a gas joint, and I didn't just do the injector on this, I took this tube out, the supply into the gas valve, and I also took the pilot assembly tube out, because if that was blocked, I wanted to check everything for blockages, basically, just do a thorough job. So spray it with my leak detector spray, and then just leave it and watch it, see if it bubbles up, to check for any escapes, but that's all good. And I'll do that on any gas part I touch. Then you're going to need to find the data plate. That's normally going to be a sticker or a little pull-out piece of metal with your details on, such as the burner pressure, things like that. But if your customer's not got the manual, you're going to also want to find the installation instructions, because if you ever work on a gas fire and you move the coals or the fuel bed, you need to put it back as the manufacturer states. You can't just put them in any old way. Some gas fire coals, especially the pebble type, will have letters, numbers or arrows on to tell you how to put them back on. But yeah, it's very important that they go back on in the correct manner. And then it's just flue flow, spillage checks, and we're done. You will not believe this job. So I sent this from the letting agency, toilet's leaking. And when I got there, relatively new bathroom install, but the toilet's not been fixed to the floor. So obviously the tenant's been using it, it's been moving and it's wiggled away, and the flush pipe cones come out. So I rang the letting agency and said, do you not want to get the guy who fitted this bathroom back? I'd say it was less than a year old. And they rang him and he said that he couldn't fix the toilet to the floor because the floor's tiled and he couldn't drill through the tiles. So I ended up doing it. I charged them for drilling the tiles, fixing it to the floor, and then I just put some silicone sealant round to make it grab the back there. But yeah, why the bathroom fitter couldn't do it, I don't know. But yeah, that's the job I did this week. Blows your mind. We're going to look at the diverter valve motor on a Baxi boiler. This will be the same for Pottertons and mains. It's a common fault for the diverter valve motor to fail. So the first thing I always do is prove the circuit board's okay. On the plug, just pull it off, and the middle pin's the neutral, and you can test the left and the right hand side. Depending on what position the diverter valve's in, central heating or hot water, it'll put 240 volt on one side, nothing on the other. So you can see there we had 240 volt on the right because the boiler's in central heating mode, nothing on the left. But when we open the hot tap, the PCB moves the voltage over to the left, so now we're getting 240. So we've proved that the circuit board's doing its thing. Be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, a diverter valve issue is going to be the motor. It's not going to be the circuit board, but it's always good to check so you can confirm that the circuit board's okay. Once you're happy with the board, change your multimeter to resistance, and then again you're checking from the middle pin and then to the left and the right. And depending on what mode your diverter valve was in when you pulled the plug off, you'll get resistance on either or. There's 2 types of diverter valve on this boiler. One's all black and then one's black and white like the one we're testing here. So the all black one, you're looking for 9.3 kilo ohms. And the black and white head like we've got here, 6.5 kilo ohms. So you can see we've got 6 k ohms, which is about right, and you should have that on one side and not the other. When you want to change it over, plug your plug back in, open the tap, and that moves it over, then you can test the other side. So we've already got the 6 k ohms on the right pin. Now we've moved the diverter over, we're going to remove the plug and check the left pin. So we should be getting the 6 k ohms now, or 6.5 on the left pin. But you'll see here when I touch my probe on, it's open circuit. So we're not getting any resistance there. So that means that inside the diverter valve is failed. So even though the circuit board's putting the 240 volt onto that left pin, the diverter valve's not moving because it's not completing the circuit. So you can see now I'm testing both sides, left and right. We've got no resistance at all. So that's a new motor. So just to confirm and prove what I've already said, If we plug the lead back in, select central heating, the PCB will now put the 240 volts onto the right hand pin, and then when we remove the plug and check for resistance again, we'll see that it's moved over and we're getting the correct resistance on the right hand pin. So it's just proving that the fault is with the left hand one. So now I've put the new diverter valve motor on, I can just show you the operation of it. So on central heating mode, the pin's down, you shouldn't be able to push it back in. When you open the tap, on hot water mode, the pin lifts up, so you'll see it fall back into the diverter valve head, or you'll be able to push it in like that. Taking the head off and just watching the pin, you can't really prove whether it's the valve motor that's at fault or the circuit board's not sending the power, but at least you can see here what it does when it's operating between central heating and hot water. One thing I will say though is if you do take your valve motor off, check that it's not wet. If it is wet, you've got a leaking diverter valve and you need to sort that, because a new head will just do the same thing, it will get wet and fail. So we've just been talking about resistance and voltage on a stepper motor inside a Baxi boiler. Now you can get that information if you ring technical and you're talking through what your fault is, they'll tell you what to test over the phone. But it's always good to know how to do it without having to call technical. Now I've got this. When you go on a Baxi training course, and they're free if you install Baxi boilers, just speak to your Baxi rep. They give you this, which is the engineer's service manual, and it's great because it gives you loads of information to help you with your fault finding. Like the sequence of operation, so everything that happens in order when your boiler first fires up for central heating and hot water. So you can follow the table, see if it's doing what it's doing, and if it stops at a certain point, yeah, we get to about there, the gas valve doesn't open, then you know everything here is working, pump's working, diverter valve's working, fan's working, so maybe we're looking pinpoint a gas valve issue. And then exploded diagrams of all the spares, how to put it into service mode, max rate, what we're looking for parts per million with our gas analyzer, and then there's setting the gas valve in there as well, wiring diagrams. But what I used on this job is this table here. So this gives us all the resistances for the different component parts. Like down here we've got the thermistor resistance readings, so you can check what resistance you should have depending on what temperature your thermistor's at. So we've got the diverter motor for central heating and for hot water, and it's telling you the pins that we're checking across, 5 and 7, 5 and 6. The colours of the wires, I mean, we don't really see them because that's inside the cable, but if you were looking on the board, that's the colours that the wires would be. So then we're seeing here, what I explained in the video, between 5 and 7, 5 being the neutral, 0 volts when it's in central heating demand, 240 volts between 5 and 6 when it's in central heating demand, and then the opposite on hot water, 240 between 5 and 7 when it's on hot water, and 0 on 5 and 6. And then it gives you the resistance here. You notice it even tells you if your stepper motor, diverter motor is all black. There's two types, they do an all black one and a black and white one. You're looking for 9.3k, and if it's a black and white one, you're looking for 6.5k. And then obviously the open circuit, depending on what mode it's in. And then if you go back to the diagram, there's our diverter valve motor. You see the middle one, which is the black, is number 5, and then 6 and 7, red and white. So always testing between the middle one, 5, and the outer 2, depending on what we're looking at. Let's see what else is in here. Error codes explained, all kinds of different parts. Servicing, so step by step how to service it, and then a short parts list of the most common spares. So yeah, you also, if you so this one's the free course that Baxi will do. Baxi also do a very good general gas engineers course. It's a 3-day course. The first day you do multimeter training, where they go through how a multimeter works and how to test components with a multimeter. Then they do the second day, which is fault finding within boilers, and not just Baxi boilers, they cover everything. And then the third day, I can't even remember what the third day is, but there's three days. It's a really good course, but you do have to pay for that one. But it's worth getting in touch with Baxi, because that's a course I've done in the past, and I've done Worcester courses, Ideal courses, Valent courses, Baxi courses. Up there with my two favourite ones, with the Valent one, you learn a lot on the Valent one and the Baxi one. Yeah, Baxi also give you this handy little laminate, which is great if you struggle to sort of get your head around electrics. So this just tells you safe isolation, what to check and how to do it. I always forget what I'm checking and why, but that's really helpful. I think if you're a plumber, I don't know what it is, but for me, things like when you're doing a fuse spur when you just fit in a combi or something, and it says supply and load on the back, I always used to just have a mind blank. Can't remember which ones is supply, what I'm supplying, or is the supply coming in. And the way I always remember it now, I can't remember who told me this, but basically load is what goes to the appliance, and just think of it as shooting your load. And I always think of Spider-Man, shoot your load. But yeah, that's really useful to have. And it's also got on the back of it the thermistor temperatures and the resistance. Again, they give you that when you go on the courses. I've also got, this one's from Valent. This tells you what sort of test procedure when you're servicing. Again, a checklist on dead testing for your safe isolation. All the codes, different codes from the Valents. There's loads of them because the boilers are so clever. Fault codes, S codes. Got a little PCB, what each connection does, how to test them. This is that I showed you in last week's video. Flow rate, temperature rise, boiler output. Yeah, all stuff that you can get when you go on training courses. I didn't record this full job for YouTube, and I wish I had, because it's the most random thing. So I was called out because the boiler was noisy. It was making a horrific rattling noise all the time, and I thought it was the pump. So I went armed with a new pump, and I took the pump out and I found a bit of gravel in it. Now I can only assume when they fitted this system, or the boiler, they put the copper pipe on the driveway and a bit of gravel got in the end, and somehow it stayed in while they fitted it. I just don't know, but it was definitely in there. I just put the old pump back in and it's whisper quiet now. What's the most random thing you've ever found inside a boiler? Let me know in the comments. So this video is a 60-second fault finding video you might remember from last year. But I remember at the time when I put it on Twitter, I got a lot of people commenting saying that I shouldn't have done it. And recently I put it on TikTok and I got a few people saying the same sort of thing. And all it is, I went to do a gas certificate, and the gas hob, the burner rings, they just weren't right. The flame was too low, even with just one going. So I knew there was a problem. Let me just show you the video, then we'll talk about it. What's up, guys? So I just been to a gas certificate and I'm checking the hob, and the first thing I noticed was the pour pressure on the burners. The more I light, the lower it gets. They don't work on low flame, they just go out. So apart from it being on a 10mm supply, my first thinking is there's going to be some paste blocking the pipe. So I took it off the gas cock, and you can see there it's completely blocked with paste. So I got that out, put it back together, tested it again, and no better, exactly the same issue. So then I've took the connection off where it connects onto the hob, and we've got, again, completely blocked with paste, PTFE and a rubber washer that's completely squashed. But the worrying thing about this job was the tenant's been there 5 years, and it's always been like it in the 5 years he's been there, and no one else has picked it up on a gas check. So I put that video on Twitter, Instagram as well, and I got some good comments like, well done, you've done your job properly there. But a lot of guys seemed a bit pressed that I'd spent the time doing it on a gas certificate. Like, you're not getting paid to do that. You should have just noted it down, left it, capped it off, whatever. And I was just thinking, like, I don't know, like, what is your opinion on this? So I've gone to a job. The tenant didn't say anything, by the way. I just said to the tenant, your gas hob's not working properly. The flames are really low. When did that happen? And he just said, it's been like that. I've lived here 5 years. It's always been like that. Like, he didn't think it was a problem. He thought it was normal. So In my head, if I find a problem with a gas appliance and it's something that I think's gonna be a fault, needs work, gonna cost some money, of course I will ring the landlord or ring the letting agency and say, this isn't right, I need to do this, it's gonna cost you this much. But something small like that, the gas hob, I mean, in my head I knew it was something on the pipework. And it could have been more, and if it was more, then I would have stopped and I would have quoted. But I just want it in my head, I want to know, why is the flame low? What is causing it? And naturally, I wanted to look, and it took me about 10 minutes. Whip the oven out, take that piece of pipework off in 2 places. It's not much work, is it? And once I'd done it and found it, I did ring the landlord and I said, look, you had a blockage on your gas hob. I spent 15-20 minutes messing around with it. I'm going to charge you an extra 25 quid. And they were fine with it and they paid it. But a lot of people were saying you shouldn't have gone to the effort you did to investigate that as part of a gas certificate. What do you think? Would you have done the same, or would you have just noted it? I know a lot of guys, they only get a certain amount of time to do things. They're on a tight schedule. They maybe haven't got time to do stuff like that. But when it's something that small, I just think we should be doing it. If you know, it's your job, you're there to find things like that and put them right. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know.
Hello, my name's Andy, and once I fucked up big time. I was on a job and I was up in the loft and I was soldering a vent that went over the top of the tank, and there was a lot of other tanks up there. It was a massive house. It was worth, probably today's date, probably £5 million. And I managed to just touch that felt lagging, and it went up like a wick. We used to call it the wick because it goes around your house that fast if you set it on fire. It set on fire and it went berserk. It set all the roof on fire. I managed to put it out by getting the water out of the tanks and throwing it over with my bare arms. I got burnt to pieces. The house nearly set on fire. The guy had rang for the fire brigade. The fire brigade came. So yeah, one day I did fuck up, and that's why I love plumbing.
Right guys, you made it to the end. Hope you enjoyed this week's video. I try and mix them up a bit of what I do. I know there was a couple of boiler jobs on this, not much plumbing, but obviously it just depends on what I've done in the week. I've got some other big jobs that I've been doing. I just got to edit them together, like long jobs that need a lot of editing. And that's just what I wanted to talk to you about. So editing a video, it takes me hours. Obviously I'm kitted out to fix boilers, bathrooms, whatever, but editing, technology, it's not really what I'm good at, but I do it. And because it takes me so long, there's a feature on YouTube called Join, and you can join this YouTube channel to help support me make more videos. So I just wanted to say, if you find the videos useful, if you feel you're benefiting from them, and you want to join the channel, you can. I've called it Buy Me a Cup of Tea, so you can buy me a cup of tea to help me make more videos. Just to give you an example, I did a video recently on how to install a Nest on a Y plan. I think my revenue from that video was 13 quid, and I guess I probably spent 6 hours putting that together and editing it. So 13 quid for 6 hours, it's not really worth doing it. But if it's worth it for you, if you're learning from it and benefiting from it, then it's worth it really. But yeah, you can buy me a cup of tea to support the channel. If you do, yeah, I'd be really grateful. But I'm not expecting you all to do it, obviously. If you want to do it, that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine as well. I'm still going to make them. So yeah, have a great week, and I'll see you next weekend. As promised, here's a little look at the new PB soldering bag. This released yesterday. I'm going to do a full video on it in my YouTube this week.